Hello, welcome to How to Play Battle for Vedros. In this game, the heroic Space Marines have arrived to crush an Ork invasion at the Battle for Vedros. You will need your freshly assembled miniatures, a tape measure or ruler to measure in inches, and the 8 dice that come in your starter set. As well as this, you will need to refer to the data entries of each unit on the back of your Battle for Vedros booklet. Battle for Vedros is designed for 2 players. One controls the heroic Space Marines, the other the savage Orks. Decide between you who will play with which army. When you have chosen, set your miniatures up on a tabletop at least 12 inches apart, as shown here. A game of Battle for Vedros consists of 6 turns for each player. A single turn is made up of 4 phases: move, shoot, charge, and fight. The Battle for Vedros is a planet-wide conflict, with a great many Space Marines battling to vanquish the Orks. But to get you started, this example will feature a small skirmish between a squad of Space Marines and a mob of Ork boys. As battle commences, the Space Marines take the first turn. All the models in this unit can move 6 inches. Or they can run 10 inches, and are then unable to shoot or charge for the rest of their turn. Any model in the unit must always be within 2 inches of another model of that unit. Once all the Space Marine units have moved, it is time for them to shoot at the enemy. Measure the range between each of the Space Marines and their targets. The targets are within each Space Marine's range of 24 inches, therefore the unit can shoot. Each Space Marine model can usually take 1 shot, but their targets are also within a range of 12 inches, so they may use their special ability of rapid fire, and each take 2 shots. The Space Marines player rolls a total of 6 dice. Space Marines score a hit for each roll, that is 3 or more. The Space Marines player must now roll 1 dice for every hit their unit made on the enemy. They must roll 4 or more to inflict 1 wound on the target. The Ork player must now roll 1 dice for each wound inflicted on their unit. The Ork boys have an armor value of 6+, so the player must roll a 6 for the wound to be ignored. If the player rolls anything under a 6, the saving throw fails and the nearest model in that unit loses a wound. An Ork boy only has a single wound, so if it loses a wound, it is slain and removed from the game. Any remaining wounds are applied to the nearest model, and so on. It's time to charge the enemy. The Space Marines will now charge the Ork boys. They are within 12 inches, so now the Space Marines player rolls 2 dice, adding the scores together to see how many inches their unit can charge. If the roll is too low and the unit can't move far enough, the charge fails and the unit stays where it is. The unit can move far enough to reach the enemy, get them as close as possible so that their bases are touching. Once the units are in base-to-base contact, they can no longer move, shoot, or be shot at until the fight is over. If there are other Space Marines nearby, it's now time for them to enter the fray too. The charge has been met. It's now time to fight the enemy. In launching their close quarters assault, the Space Marines unit fights first in this phase, but they'll need to remain on guard, as the Orks that survive will fight back. This Space Marine unit can make a total of 3 attacks. Roll that many dice. A hit is scored for each dice rolled that is a 4 or more. The Space Marines player now rolls to get 4 or more in order to inflict wounds on the target unit. The Ork player must now roll 1 dice for each wound inflicted on their unit. Ork boys need to get a 6 for their armor to be effective, otherwise they lose a wound, the controlling player choosing which model loses them. Ork boys only have a single wound, so any roll lower than a 6, the model is slain and removed from play. Any remaining wounds carry over to the next nearest model, and so on. Once the Space Marines player has fought with all of their units, the Ork player fights back by following the exact same process. When the Ork player has retaliated in the fight phase, it is then their turn to move, shoot, charge and fight with their Ork units. Remember, the game ends when one side has wiped out the other. If after 6 turns each player still has models on the tabletop, the player with the most models wins. If each player has the same number of models, it's a draw. We hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and have many exciting games of Battle for Vedros.